Well, welcome to Carpool Q&A with Empower to Connect. These are our shorter episodes to help get you from point A to point B. Our deep dive, long discussion conversations, long form conversations are posted to our feed on Tuesdays. This is just a conversation to help you while you might be in the car, Ubering kids from point to point, or maybe you just drop them off and you've got a few minutes, whatever it might be. This is just a short conversation about one specific topic. And it is Becca McKay, Tona Ottinger, and myself. And we are going to each week, one of us brings a topic without the other two knowing what it is. And then we jump into that discussion. And today it is my turn. And so today, we have actually had some longer form conversations about this, but I wonder if there's a quick, direct conversation in this specific topic is how do you handle perpetual lying?
Well, just
short conversation.
Bring in here light on us here on this Friday, JD.
Share the cure. And
are you talking about the parents lying or the children? I'm just teasing. JD, I'm just teasing.
All of the above. Yes.
Sure.
I think it's funny because we've actually heard from multiple friends even just this week, just with questions about this, like, hey, what do you do about this? And this is something that we faced before, and something, I think I have shared this on other podcasts before that I struggled with growing up as a kid. So I feel like I have, some unique perspective to this a little bit, but when we start off thinking about this, like, we have typically at ETC had a what would be probably be a non-traditional view on how we approach lying or handle lying. And why don't we get into that?
Mm-hmm.
Becca? Why don't you get into that, Becca?
Why don't we get into that, Becca?
Becca, he says.
Pass that baton. Spot. All right, come on, Becca.
Oh man. Listen to the 2 longer episodes if this one sparks your curiosity. But I think Robin Gobble said it on a podcast that we did with her, was just like, we all lie. So she was like, take a hard look. Think about the last time a friend said, can you do XYZ? And you said, oh, I'm so sorry, I can't because of Y. And that was not true. So first of all, just take lying maybe a little bit off of a pedestal. Lying is a human behavior that makes sense if the goal is to not make waves. So if you think about, like, we're trying not to make waves. So as a kid, we're lying for who knows what the reason is. Maybe scared of getting in trouble, maybe embarrassed, maybe sometimes maybe fun, like I'm telling a fun story because I think it would be cool and I want you to think that this is cool too. Maybe wanting to look a little better than we are. Think about too, as you're a kid and into your young adulthood, you're really forming your identity. You're trying on different things to see what fits you. And so lying is part of that, of like trying on different things. You put us on the spot with a big one, JD. Those are my top of the head. My top of the head is consider, are you driving lying by creating a ton of fear around it and like big, heavy hammer responses? And consider, okay, if this is a human behavior that happens and we want to correct it over time, how can we do that with connection?
To sort of piggyback on what Becca said a little bit, I also think about, there are just some neurodiversity that needs to be taken into account here as well. And maybe like the speed of the brain and how it's wiring and working as it's processing information. And so sometimes just giving a little bit of room and understanding for that, like the brain works a certain way and lying is part of how the brain is working, and our stress system is activated in certain situations. And so what would it look like? And this is a big one. So I'm proposing a big idea here, and I'm proposing it to Tona Ottinger. Like, this is a proposal to myself. What if we just looked at it as a whole different kind of thing? Like, what if we just looked at lying with a totally different framework of understanding and a totally different set of lenses than maybe the traditional perspective of lying, or how we may have grown up thinking about lying, or how we may have started our parenting journey thinking about lying. And I think we assign big intent
Mm.
And I say I'm going to stop saying that. I think I sign big intent and big motivation to lies when that's probably, as Becca said, like not really what's going on. And it's not this big, I'm going to get something over on my mom, which is sometimes how it feels inside of my body when it's happening. So understanding what's happening in us when it's going on is probably maybe like the biggest part of it all, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I
Mhm.
can say yes to lots of those things. I mean, for myself growing up, like it was sometimes fun to tell exaggerated stories that didn't happen just to get the reactions of the crowd. It was sometimes a like trying to avoid trouble, trying to avoid consequences, or trying to avoid getting in trouble for something. Sometimes there was just a shame that was too deep to tell the whole truth of a situation of how I had made a
Yes.
mistake or had a failure or whatever. And so I was going to like share a corner of it, and try to then like do the technicality of like, well, I told you about this. I mean, maybe just not the whole thing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
from my own personal experience, there's that. I think, yeah, Tona, thinking about it, say, and let me just say for those of you out here, like, who are hearing this and struggling with this conversation, it is so much easier to talk about this in microphones in a
Oh
moment
my
and kind
goodness.
of posit or give our views on this in a sober-minded, clear-minded,
Yes.
like not in the middle of a battle with a kid moment than it
Like
is.
I'm sitting at my desk with my coffee in hand. There are no
Oh,
children around, and I can have this regulated reflection moment
we're
on
not
how I
answering.
feel when somebody might lie to me. But
Yeah,
I'm
we're not
sure if you
answering
handed
kids.
the microphone to one of my children, they'd be like, that is not the mom we know when we've actually done that. So
Yeah, I
thank
mean,
you for that, JD.
yeah, and then how we handle that. I sometimes react with great compassion because of my own personal experience to lying. I sometimes react with like the fire, the fury of 1,000 suns or whatever, out of fear that this kid is going to struggle the way that I did with learning to tell the truth and to be forthright. Right. So, we're all going to have different reactions and reasons behind those reactions. I think again, my clear-minded, up here, and we're listening to a podcast, so I'm emotioning above my head. Like this, like clearer-minded thought would be that just like we say with other behaviors, like there are needs being expressed behind a behavior, and so as and I think it was Robin that talked about that need to create felt safety. As we go back to kind of the core principles, like all these conversations end up kind of going back to one road, right? Which is like we got to create safety. If there's safety to be fully known and fully loved, like as a child, it takes a lot of the pressure off to lie. So
Yeah.
if you have a safe place and you know that like no matter what I share, I'm good. I've still got the relationship here, and then we're going to be able to tackle this together without like some big, reaction. It's easier to tell the truth. Like that's something that I would say. That sentence in and of itself is a hard dynamic to create. That would be like a goal, like a utopian kind of parenting paradise would be. Everybody in the family feels uniquely safe to bring their whole failures and successes self to the picture without fear of whatever you might be fearful of, right? But that is the goal. Like that would be the goal, would be to create that safety. And so if there's lying and you're addressing the lying, like how can we figure out the actual root? Like why is the lying happening? And then how can we create a felt safety or address the needs that are being expressed in that area? If we're lying about grades, like, yes, I did. And again, I was a frequent flyer in this department. Yeah, I did that homework. Reason, I don't want to do homework right now. I've got NCAA football, to play on the Xbox downstairs. Or like, oh crap, I already told you I was going to do that homework. And yes, I did get it turned in, and I really will as soon as you're not looking. Like, get it done real fast and get it submitted so that I didn't lie to you earlier, air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
But like both those things might be like, hey, no drama, that's fine, just get it done.
Yeah.
You didn't get done earlier. Well, I'll tell you what, just to help you, like I'm going to sit with you. We're going to get it done now. Like instead of like, how dare you lie to me and tell me it was done when it wasn't done, and you're going to do this and you're also going to have a massive consequence. Like you think about that, like you just either created the best liar in the world or 10 years of
Yeah.
shame. Right. Um, and so, again, that's said as a repeat offender, right? So like, I think the best thing in the situations, if you do have a kid that is showing a propensity to lie a lot, may be to really double down on felt safety, really double down on like connection to say, hey, what I really want to know is just like, I'm not worried about the lying. And that's you lying as a parent because you're super worried about the lying. But what you're trying to communicate is, I'm not worried about the lying. Like but that you would feel like you had to lie to me, that you couldn't bring the truth. Like that's what makes me that's what makes me more concerned. Like I want to make sure that you can always bring whatever to me, and you're not going to have this big reaction or blow up from me. Like we're going to tackle stuff together. Like that might be the best approach if you're dealing with it systemically, with one particular kid. I don't know.
It's
Just
messy
right.
too, because you add in siblings, and then it's, well, sister said you did this to brother, and brother saying, no, I didn't. And like, there's a lot of kids, whenever they're young, aren't very able to see someone else's perspective. That's still growing and developing. And so we're asking them to do like an adult level thing. We're asking them to stop and think about how sister felt and think about her perception and how did you react and why. And so I think too, one thing that I've encouraged parents is like, if you already know the truth, you don't need to force them to say it, because that can increase shame. So like if you your kid is hiding candy and you walk in the room and you see the candy wrappers on the floor, they don't need to say, Mom, I stole the candy. You know what happened. Like, so sometimes we create these environments for them to lie. Like we're setting them up to fail instead of just addressing, why are they needing and seeking to hide candy in their room? What's the lack of felt safety? What's the need behind that behavior? What's the family structure that we need to implement? Like, what do we need to do? When it's like sibling conflict, something that I did a lot with kids at school was thinking about, like, if they said I didn't hit him, I just knew that what they meant was, I didn't mean to hit them. I know I shouldn't have hit them. They didn't mean I didn't hit them. They meant, I know I shouldn't have done that. And so when their knee jerk is, I didn't hit him, I could have gone, well, you're lying because I saw you hit them and I watched it with my own two eyes. What I can like pause and do, again, like Tona said, when I'm calm enough, when I'm regulated, when I'm like using all of my logical thinking, I can be like, okay, what happened before? Oh, well, she was making fun of my mom, or she was making fun of this or that, and you felt really mad. And what did you do when you felt really mad? You hit, like, there's a little bit of like, we kind of set kids up to lie to us sometimes. I'm not saying that it's always the adult's quote unquote fault, but I'm just saying sometimes we know the truth. We don't need to belabor them saying it. We just need to deal with, what did they do? Did they hit? Did they hide? Did they steal? Like, what were they doing that we're now setting them up to lie about? Does that make sense?
It totally does. It
Yeah.
totally does.
Yeah.
So because I'm doing my best to be vulnerable, here's my little thing I'm feeling inside. We can do it all right.
Yeah.
And we can create all the felt safety in the world, and they're still going to lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's just something I've had to work through for my own self. And like, what does it mean for me to show up in a scenario that's highly impacts me as a person? Like lying is one of my biggest buttons. So it's been a journey and still is a journey of how do I show up for my kid in relationship, knowing that like I actually kind of have done everything I can do, and we might not be moving towards truth telling at the rate at which I would like. And what does it mean to like not give up on knowing that we have like a lifetime of relationship, God willing, to continue to work on what does it mean to feel safe enough together to be our full vulnerable selves. Like JD, I loved what you said when you were like, maybe the shame core's just too big to show it all out, like to uncover it all. And like that to me is the deep commitment, is like we can do our best and it's probably still not going to solve all, fibs, exaggeration, exclusion of full truth, all of that kind of thing, like, because we're human. So we started this little moment on, hey, lying is a human behavior. And maybe I would want us to end with like, hey, mom, dad, caregiver, educator, person caring for children, you can create all the felt safety in the world and they're still going to lie to you because lying's a human behavior. But our role is to try to build those relationships and places of felt safety. And you said something, JD, earlier, and I'm like, man, what if, and gosh, this is just because I haven't always done this well, y'all, which is like, you can tell me anything and I'm totally going to help solve the problem with you. And then maybe they actually do. And then maybe my body and my neurobiology and my stress response still doesn't respond in a way that builds felt safety. So what does it look like to repair and be humble and be like, oh, that really was hard for me to hear. And I'm still in it with you. So it's complex, especially as they get older. And maybe the lies or the exclusion of the full truth has more dire consequences.
Yeah.
So like, don't fall into a spiral shame if your kid's lying to you. It doesn't mean you aren't a safe person. It doesn't mean you aren't a good parent. It means there's a lot of complexity there. And, just keep showing up and keep trying to create and cultivate an environment where you are regulating while the truth is hard to hear. Like, just try to stay regulated when the truth's really painful. Because the truth might be something about you. Hey, mom, I was scared to tell you that because you blow up or you're scary, or I like, if it's personal, I don't know. I have a few things I'm pulling from here, y'all. A little personal experience on this one.
Yeah.
So thanks for teeing me up. Aye. And so I'm still enmeshed in it all. It's a process, maybe.
Yeah.
That's what I've got today.
Well, great.
Okay, we're fine. Getting those
Yeah.
skills.
Well, latest chapter in this saga, right? Like, we're just gonna keep on trudging forward. So, you know what? If you got questions, you got thoughts on this yourself, like, drop us a comment below. Let us know, either in Instagram or Facebook, or our podcast feedback form on the website. So, thanks. We will see y'all soon.